Hey, I'm Kat.
Together with my husband, we spend most of our time exploring the UK and Europe by motorbike, using a motorhome as our base. Many people have asked us why we choose to take a van instead of just camping with a tent, so I wanted to explain how it started and why we love it so much, as well as how I managed to quit my job so we could travel almost full time. Our very first trip abroad with our motorbikes was to France. We took them behind a car on a little trailer and we explored a section of the West Atlantic coast from Bordeaux down past the Dune de Pilau, which is an amazing sand dune if you ever get a chance to go and see it, and then a little bit further south than that. We loved it. The weather was fantastic. The food was fantastic.
The bikes were fantastic. Although I had the slowest crash known to man or woman. I were off the road onto like a gravel car park, and there was maybe, I don't know, 2-inch gap, drop from the road to the gravel car park, because the French are brilliant like that. And I don't know why I didn't see it, and it just shook me up when I dropped. I said to my husband in the helmet, I'm like, I think I'm going to crash. And he's like, I'd rather you didn't. Just put your feet down. And I just put my foot down and just leant really. We didn't have any GoPros on the end. And he's like, it was watching you was ridiculous. Like, you could have stopped that at any point, and I just didn't. You had to just lay the bike down. So yeah, anyway, France. France was amazing. But the problem that we had was we felt really uncomfortable, and we had real trouble finding B&Bs that were accepting of bikers. And these were, we weren't even like leaving early or arriving really late or revving our engines. We were literally a couple with a daughter on bikes. But we felt really uncomfortable. There were several places we stopped at that were just not very welcoming or friendly because we had bikes. It was the only thing that put us off. And we were kind of talking as we were going around, like, how can we fix that? How can we make it better for our next trip? Wherever our next trip's going to be, turned out to be Germany. That was also epic. And we happened to ride past a motorhome with a trailer behind it, pulling 2 bikes. And we were like, that's our solution. Let's do that. So literally, we got back to the UK. The next week, we went to look at vans. We had a small pot of money. We bought the first van we could find that had enough beds to sleep all 3 of us, had a small workspace for my husband because he had to work from the road, and which could tow a trailer, because not every motorhome can tow a trailer. And that, we bought it. That was a mistake because we didn't know anything about motorhomes. The layout was all wrong for us. The whole way that the van was completely wrong for us, but we didn't know that at the time. And it was brilliant. It was like this whole world had opened up to us because we could take the van wherever we wanted to go, and it was our base. We had proper beds, we had toilet, we had a shower, we had an oven or a hob so we could make a brew if we wanted to go. If it was raining or we just didn't want to ride that day, we were dry. We didn't have to worry about drying our wet gear because we had somewhere to hang it in the bathroom. It was magic. Like, everything that we didn't like the idea of about long-term travel. And the problem with 3 of us being on the bike is we couldn't take all our tents and gear and camping stuff because there just physically wasn't enough room for all of our kit, for all 3 of us, and tents and everything else. And our daughter now by this point was 16, 17, so she kind of didn't want to share a tent with her parents, so she'd have needed her own tent. It was just impossible on 2 bikes. I'm sure it's probably impossible. I'm sure somewhere there will be a family who goes moto camping with all that gear on, but for us, we really struggled with it. So it just answered all of our problems. And we've now had several motorhomes. And this is number 3. We think this is, well, for now it's our final one. We love this van. And that's how we started traveling with a van and the bikes. So from there, we've now done about 15 countries around Europe. And some of the highlights are Germany, Norway was amazing, Italy, I love Italy, been there several times, the Dolomites and all that area, just fab. France, we still go back to Scotland, Wales, heck, even England, beautiful. We've done the whole Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, Sweden, right up into Norway, all the way back down again. We've gone all the way up to Slovenia and Croatia. I still want to do Romania. We want to do the Transfagoresen. There are loads of places we want to do. Loads. I still haven't done Stelvio. We keep driving past Stelvio Pass. Really want to do that. But yeah, there have been some incredible places, and I am just addicted to the way of life. And our very first trip after we got the van was we went to the Italian lakes. And we went to the Italian lakes in July with the motorhome and 2 bikes on the back. Now, if you don't know about the Italian lakes, it's beautiful. Highly recommend you go. Do not go in July or August. It's carnage. There are so many people there. It's so hot. I mean, it's a brilliant place to ride bikes. It's an awful place to take a motorhome because it's so busy. But the bikes roads around there are amazing. Our favourite one was one called the Gorge Road, where it goes right through the cliff. James Bond used it for one of their films, and it's just incredible. And you can't get through it in anything bigger than like a small car. I don't even think like a Land Rover or Range Rover could get through it. Bikes are magic. So we had a brilliant time. From there, we went up into Switzerland. We did the Swiss Alps, and then from there, we spent the night. We were camped totally in the wild, right up in the Swiss Alps. And my husband and I, we were trying to do some astrophotography, and we stood outside the van, the bikes were on a trailer behind it, and we're taking pictures, and we're just saying, this is amazing. We don't want to go home. How can we make this our life? And then this sort of snuffling and weird noises came from down the road, and we suddenly realised that there were wolves in the Alps, and we ran into the van. But that started our want and our passion to stop being so tied to work, and how could we figure out how to travel more. And we discovered that the biggest thing that was tying us to where we were in the UK was my job. I mean, our daughter had a little bit of time left in college, but the biggest thing after she left college and went to university and did all that stuff, the biggest thing that was tying us in place and stopping us traveling a lot more long term was my job. I was an air traffic controller for London. So I did when aircraft take off from Heathrow, Stansted, Luton. There's like this whole big mess of an airspace over London. And I used to separate them all out. And then obviously when they were going out or going in, or make sure the lot didn't hit each other. And it was a really cool job. I did that for about 13 years. Really enjoyed it. At least once I got my license, I really enjoyed it. Training was tough. But I didn't want to do it for the next 30 years of my life. I wanted to live and enjoy the time that we've got. We both feel it's quite arrogant to assume that if we're going to make it to retirement age and then we're going to then be fit enough to have all this time to travel. And we really wanted to enjoy the time we had left. If losing my mother-in-law taught us anything, we literally had been making plans with her for the following summer, the week before she went to hospital. She never came out again. And it just taught us to take the opportunity that we had. You know, we were young enough. We had a daughter who was almost finishing with her studies and didn't really need us anymore. She was approaching 18. She could survive on her own quite happily. Not forever, obviously, but for us to go off for a week or two without her with us. And we crunched the numbers. We spent a long time looking at our accounts. We downsized our lives massively. We still lived on boats at this point. So we were splitting our time between the van and the boat. And we were downsized our lives so that we could live just on my husband's wage. So everything that I earned went into savings. And we did that for about 6 months, and then realized that I could just quit. And that was huge. That was such a terrifying decision. I have another YouTube channel that I started called Wandering Bird. That was a nickname that I picked up a long time ago when we were going to go sailing around the world. And that was before I realized that I didn't really like deep water, and I didn't really like storms on a boat. So sailing around the world is not for me. But Wandering Bird just became this thing because of albatrosses, and it just became my nickname. So I started Wandering Bird as a sort of like an online diary for after I quit my work. But on there is a video. I'll link to it so you can see my reactions when I quit my job. Because initially I applied for sabbaticals to like take a year off, and they were like, no, we're not sure if we can let you do that or not. And that was when we started downsizing so that we could, you know, save up for the sabbatical. And that was when we realized that actually I didn't need to come back, and certainly for the foreseeable future. I'm not saying I'll never work again, but at the moment we're living just off one wage. And that was how we started really getting into our long-term travel. And, you know, we talked about taking the bikes and going off and doing this massive tour. But we've got family in the UK. Our daughter wasn't quite old enough to just be left without any support whatsoever. So we were like, no, we can do Europe, we can do the UK, we can do Europe for a few years and see how we get on. But we both agreed that we liked having the support of the van, because obviously my husband was still working. It gave him an office. It gave us options. If he had to fly back, and he does fly back, you know, well, did before the world changed. So let's just assume that that wasn't a thing. 2020 was just, let's just ignore that ever happened. But, you know, normally we'll travel somewhere. If we're going to stay there for a month or two, he'll fly back to deal with clients and whatever. And I don't want to be stuck with 2 bikes in the middle of nowhere. So having the van and being able to use a campsite and whatever makes life a lot more safe for me. So that's why we continue to travel with the van. We enjoy that. But I have never lost the excitement of being able to go off and explore on a motorbike. That is by far my favourite way to explore a place. So although we use this as a base, it doesn't become real for me until we've gone off in the bikes to see stuff. And That's still my greatest love. If you are planning on doing some motorbike adventures of your own, you might find either of these videos useful. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.